Welcome to GRC Chat. Today our guest is Joe Sutherland. I'm very happy to have you here today, Joe. Welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay, so before we jump into our topic for today, can you shortly introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I'm Joe Sutherland. I'm a consultant. I run JL Sutherland and Associates, which is an Atlanta-based management consultancy focusing on technology, data analytics, and in particular, artificial intelligence. I also run the Center for AI Learning at Emory University, former White House staffer for Barack Obama. Lots of other little past lives to share.
Sounds excellent. So thank you once again for joining us. So let's get into it. Since you've been involved in, as you mentioned, uh, crafting policy around AI research, what is your take on safely using AI? Do you think we need more regulations or less?
It's a great question. I think the key tension comes from the fact that people are seeing bad actors use artificial intelligence to do bad things. For example, they're using it to deep fake people. Deep faking is where you put somebody into a place they've never been, using their likeness, saying things that they've never said, oftentimes to either hurt their own reputation or to endorse some sort of fraudulent scheme. I've seen CEOs being impersonated using deep fakes in order to convince their employees to wire $10,000 or $20,000 to some offshore account. And so people see it being used for bad things. People see it used to, scam your grandma, right? It's something that people are really, really worried about. So we want to protect consumers. On the other hand, we don't know all the use cases that artificial intelligence is going to be applied to. Not just generative AI, which can do the deep faking, or large language models, which can produce all this text, but artificial intelligence more generally, things that use your consumer data as part of a customer data platform to go and automate the recommendations that we make to you, things that help us forecast how a business is going to be doing in the new uncertain strategic environment, such as the one we find ourselves in today. And so I think all these use cases, we don't know what they're going to be. And if we over-regulate them, we have the risk of potentially stymieing all the innovation that could emerge. And so I think that policy has to encourage innovation and entrepreneurship around the use of artificial intelligence, but still protect consumers. Now, what does that mean at the state versus federal levels? Well, at the federal level, we need some sort of regulatory framework because right now, if you have a bad actor who's doing something bad in Georgia, and you outlaw it in Georgia, which we can do and we should, right? We should just call out what the bad actors are. If they go across the border to like Tennessee or Texas and keep doing it, the internet lets them still hurt people in Georgia, right? So we need some sort of federal framework that's going to let us regulate things so that bad actors can't just escape the state borders and jurisdictions where we would outlaw things.
Thank you so much. I mean, there is a lot of, debate. There's a lot of discussions around AI, the use of AI and everything. You hear a lot of knowledge here and there, right? So, in your opinion, what is the biggest misconception when it comes to businesses using data?
When businesses use data generally, the biggest misconception is that using data is going to help them uh, solve any problem without them having to think about it. That's maybe a really, really watered down way of saying it. And I should say, I talk about this in my new book with Tim Wilson called Analytics the Right Way. We've got a bunch of chapters all about misconceptions and how to overcome them when it comes to using data in business. A lot of it relates to decision making. People think that with infinite amounts of data, you can eliminate uncertainty. You can always make the perfect choice. The truth is that that's impossible. A lot of people think that if you just get the data, you throw it into artificial intelligence, AI will be able to tell you what to do with it. And the holy war in computer science that I've been a part of, and many people have been a part of for the past few decades, is can you actually ever teach these machines or have these machines teach you anything that you didn't already teach them? And the answer is pretty much no. So true, insightful, incisive actionability comes from our choice sets, our contexts, and the information that we have baked into our pasts and abilities, right? It's very context specific. A computer doesn't know how to take all those pieces of information and then propose an option to you that's going to make you just immensely profitable. So because profit comes from true insight and information.
Thank you. I do have actually a follow-up question to this. So the first one was more data, and this time more about the AI ML. So how can businesses get smarter about using, AI and machine learning? Obviously, because they are using, we are already using, but how to, like maybe use it more
Well,
smartly in
well,
our day-to-day operations?
it's interesting. I mean, it depends on what type of business you talk about. I mean, the census just released an interesting statistic. It says that only 3% of businesses actually are using or have used artificial intelligence at some point in the last year, which is very different from if you go and survey all the CEOs of the big Fortune 500 companies, where 70 to 80% of CEOs not only say that they have an artificial intelligence strategy, they also say that they are worried that they're going to be fired because it's not specific or effective enough, right? So we're seeing a bifurcation, small businesses, medium-sized businesses right now, which I think are still trying to figure out what are going on, and the Fortune 500s, where it's just the conversation is all about AI. Now, uh, the second point I want to make is that businesses don't really fall within one category. You get some businesses, even amongst the Fortune 500, who I would consider like really breakout leaders. They're thinking transformationally. How do I use artificial intelligence as part of my DNA? How do I enable my employees to use it all towards the same goal? How do I become more efficient? How do I use it for training and succession planning, et cetera? Those companies are, I think, going to be the leaders over the next few years. Obviously, you've got the NVIDIAs of the world who are thinking of it as core to their business model, right? I mean, that's a big change, the core to the business model, generating the revenue and value. But you've also got companies like Cisco who are thinking about changing their operating models more efficiently, using artificial intelligence more transformatively. I think on the other end, you've got companies that want to invest in it, but they don't really have either the appetite, the expertise, or the capital available to go and do it. And those companies, I think, have an opportunity to more incrementally invest in portfolios of AI projects through some of the mechanisms actually that we talk about in the book. Not to plug the book, but I sort of plug the book. Uh, and I think that the problem that I'm seeing is that a lot of those less ready companies are waiting for OpenAI, for Claude, ChatGPT, et cetera, to go and release a technology that's just going to work for everyone, right? And it's going to automate everything that they do, and then they'll just buy it. That's what they're thinking. They'll just buy it or subscribe to it and then go and use it. And the problem is that that's never going to happen. The domain specificity of what their business contexts are will never enable them to use a general tool to achieve a specific outcome. And I'm worried that they're sitting on the sidelines.
Thank you. And there's always this fear when it comes to AI, especially with like, can AI take over my job? So I kind of have a question related to that. So is technology actually, like always better? Are there any areas when, technology really doesn't help or, more effective than people? I think you sort of mentioned it, but maybe
Yeah,
a bit
yeah.
more in depth.
Well, I think the misconception there is that you can buy an outcome, right? A lot of people feel like through technology you can buy a more efficient company, or you can buy data governance is a big one right now, right? You can buy data governance. And the truth is that a lot of these problems are just what we refer to as collective action problems. So going back to basic blocking and tackling about how do we come together to achieve an outcome that would be greater if we were all on the same page than if we were all acting separately. These collective action problems are not technology problems, they're people problems, they're political problems, right? And we need to be able to have really clear and strong leadership and guidance, and we need to have people who are educated and well resourced enough within companies to be able to feel ready to represent these awesome value opportunities. But a lot of companies feel like instead of doing all that, it'd just be cheaper to go buy a technology platform and have it happen. But then they see, oh, nothing happened. And so like it's almost I don't know where it comes from exactly. Maybe it just comes from the fact that you just want to make a cheaper purchase and get a higher ROI and you're sold on that, right? But the truth is that a lot of these problems are real people problems, and you have to fix those before you can go and use technology.
Thank you. And I have one last question. And how do you predict the future of AI when it comes to, how businesses operate? What are your predictions? Where will we be, let's say, in 5 years?
Yeah. My hope is that businesses will have continued to adopt artificial intelligence technologies broadly. That's not just large language models. It's not just what we've been referring to as agentic AI. It's also other things that help process data, make predictions, and integrate human in the loop and out of the loop workflows as part of the operating model of the company. So I think that we'll be able to run businesses a lot more efficiently over the next 5 years as we roll out artificial intelligence. Do I think it's going to fully occupy the space? No, electricity alone took like 70 years to roll out. So artificial intelligence could easily be a 35-year process. And part of that's because of those people problems that I talked about. But my hope is that it helps make businesses more efficient. Now, you do hear a lot of talk about AGI and people saying, from major labs, mine is not included, by the way, the AI Center at Emory, we don't hold this view, that AI is going to be generally proficient at pretty much any task within the next 2 years, and that's going to replace humans in lots of different jobs. And the truth is, I don't see the specificity of actionable information as powerful enough through these generalized technologies to say that we would be able to replace one person in one company with a general technology. And for that reason, I believe that AGI, as it used to be defined, walking, talking human robots, is really not coming in the next few years. Now, some of the big labs have redefined artificial intelligence, AGI, artificial general intelligence, to mean task specific, productivity specific use cases that where the machine can perform better than a human or an expert on lots of different tasks. That's been a redefinition that's happened over the past few years. Will we see that? Sure, on some of the tasks where the large language models are really well trained. So, of course, the large language model is going to do better on an MCAT, which is, it's the medical exam the doctors have to take to get into medical school, because it's been trained on the best MCAT answers. I mean, when it comes to things that haven't been seen before, the large language models don't really know they're not going to be able to produce information that humans will know what to do with, right? So I see it as something that will hopefully increase efficiency of companies, but I do doubt that it's going to be hitting the GDP numbers and productivity numbers directly, such that it's just creating new value. Uh, we're still a little bit further away from true AGI.
Thank you for sharing that too. And with that, we have unfortunately run out of our time for today. So once again, I want to thank you so much for your insights and yeah, joining our podcast.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.